Right, so let's talk about Fishy Rishi's vanished into his shoes. Danny Kelly, I'll start with you.
I don't know where the hell he is. I drove 95 miles down here to get here. I was keeping an eye out for him. I got into the leaderless zone and I was particularly looking for him, and I couldn't see him. Do you know what? With that fabulous monologue, by the way, which made me howl with laughter. One thing about Mickey Lynch, what an intolerant little lefty he is. The fact that he won't talk to GBNews.
Yeah.
He's a big Brexiteer, that lad. OK, so he doesn't agree with right-wing politics. But there's so much more to GBNews than having right-wing opinions on. And it just summarises the intolerant left. And they're the real bigots and they're the real bullies.
It shows he hasn't watched GBNews, because if he'd really watched, he couldn't possibly say what he said.
He's so prejudiced.
He's so just utterly prejudiced.
We are
about it,
fair. We argue on all sorts, don't we?
We
don't all agree. We're not biased. And he has a huge, big £1 million pad, champagne socialist.
Well, he's also getting his normal salary, isn't he?
Yeah,
Whilst
he's not
everybody's on strike. And they're getting a pittance for this privilege because he won't, maybe come down on his demands.
The problem is that Mr Lynch is all too visible, whereas, as you say, where is Rishi? It is. Well, he did write an article in, I think it was The Sun, about 2 weeks ago, in case you missed it. I know he did.
But that's just an article.
But what I find extraordinary, I mean, was it a New Year, end-of-year message, whatever it was? I have never, ever seen anything so boring and wooden, and I can't really actually read this auto-cue very well. And it was dreadful, so uninspiring. But he surely must have, or should have, learnt the lesson. One of the problems of Liz Truss, and I'm trying to think of their names now, Kwasi Kwarteng, was because they delivered their budget, which I thought had all the right ideas, low tax and high growth, etc., but then they didn't explain it, and they disappeared, and they went below the radar, and the result was a disaster. He should have been out there. He should be out there constantly trying to explain everything to people. We are heading not this year, next year, for the lowest wages since World War II, apparently, according to the predictions. Now, that is an incredible state of affairs, and I think Lizzie mentioned that you did, that he presided over some of the decline when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. So where the hell is he?
It's such a good question. Where is Rishi? Where is he? Maybe he's doing a degree in incompetence.
Maybe he's won some invisibility powers.
Yes.
I'm all in favour of delegation, and of course that's the whole point of cabinet government, and you do the health and you do the education and you do that. But in times of pretty major crisis, which I think this government is in and will be in for quite a long time, he's the head. He should be out there.
He's gone into, Houdini mode. He's the invisible man. We don't know where he is at a time
Maybe he is here, but he's hidden somewhere
possibly.
We can't see him.
Under the Christmas tree.
Perhaps. Like a little elf.
He's left us in the political wilderness. Because we don't know what he's doing. He's taken his Lib Lab. They're not the Tories anymore. No. They're not doing anything about this critical situation, as Christine said. I mean, look what's going on with the NHS, the immigration, the borders are botched, Britain is broken, and where is our Prime Minister? Nowhere to be seen. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
You would think, right, that he would, when it was COVID and Boris would appear and he'd talk and then somebody else would speak, and then you would think that all these ministers will be speaking to us as the public and letting us know what's going on, and at least giving us some sort of idea of that somebody is steering the ship. But I'm not getting that from any of them, and I'm not getting that for any idea from the Labour Party.
Maybe this is a deliberate tactic to be aloof because of all of the politics with the strikes, because you can imagine if he gave a daily press briefing over the festive period.
God forbid.
But you can imagine, and then he's visible, so we can't complain about his visibility because he's there. But most of the questions would be about the strikes, maybe.
Well, that's exactly it. He should answer the questions, shouldn't he?
Well, I think what he's doing is politically sort of remaining aloof, not to give any leverage to the strikers. So it's like, we don't care if you're on strike because you're going to break and blink before we do.
What about leadership, though?
Leadership. We need leadership. Look, after his campaign, after his promotional videos, the slick videos, all I'm going to give, all the promises, and now he disappears. I mean, what is this man about? I'm so underwhelmed, and that's the word I can use. I would rather say another word. I mean, he's totally just not here.
Joe Biden's in the Caribbean.
So what's that got to do with
maybe Rishi's in the Caribbean
Exactly.
too.
He could fit in a suitcase.
He did go in
the overhead locker.
In his defence, he did go to Ukraine. We saw the pictures of him wandering around in Ukraine. He has done that.
But the order of the first order of any government is to look after its people. He's not looking after his people.
Well, he may be, but he's not telling us about it.
What about the Christmas message as well, that he phoned people around the world?
Oh, that was awful.
Didn't think to speak to us, just have a chat with a load of people on the phone.
That was such a gimmick.
It was awful. I mean, even the campaign that he obviously waged with Boris, he'd already set up the suntan stuff and all these things. I mean, you don't just bring a product out the next day.
Well, no.
It takes months to create the product, create the brand, create the exterior. He'd been thinking about this. Was a setup. And then he brought out his suntan cream.
What's the suntan cream?
Did you not see it? No, it's a sunblock. Don't go red. Don't go in. Get red.
Get the Rishi whatever.
So you wouldn't go red as in Labour.
Such a stupid.
But he had it ready.
But sadly, do you not think, as I said from the start, and the reason why I did actually support Liz Truss over Rishi is that he's out of touch. And you saw that when he spoke to the homeless person saying, well, you know, are you going to be starting up your own business? And he was like, well, I just want to get through Christmas.
To be fair to him, he didn't say that. He said, are you in business, rather than going to start your own.
Yes, but it's to a homeless person. But he's out of touch. And how can people relate to this billionaire? I just don't think people can relate to him, and he's not relating to his people.
Well, he would know as well to start a business or to even get any benefit, you need an address. So if you're homeless, it's a pretty stupid question.
Yes, it is.
It's just a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
I don't think we should hold against him the fact that he's a billionaire. I was about to say
Why not?
Well, because it doesn't necessarily stop him being a good Prime Minister. I'm not saying it makes him a good Prime Minister. It doesn't stop him. Nobody should be held back from any role because they're rich.
But he's not relating to everyday people.
No,
he's saying to a homeless person, you know, have you got a business?
But that's not because he's rich. That's because he's not able to do it.
How was the eaten, educated Boris Johnson able to connect with the everyday plebs like us for?
Well, he wasn't a billionaire, was he?
But he's incredibly well.
He will be any minute.
Well, I hope he deserves to be a billionaire after what he was put through, Boris. I hope he does do well at it.
But all that energy and effort he did to backstab Boris, then he parachutes his way into number 10. And what does he do? He goes missing. Thank you very much.
Do you know, when you said a parachute, I just saw a parachute going adrift because it couldn't land because it wasn't heavy enough.
Unbelievable.
Floating in the wind.
Now you're being weightist.
I shouldn't be
You're
horrible.
being weightist. You're not allowed to be weightist.
Hang on.
Yours will come straight down.
There's more time for the fact gags.
But
I mean, where is he? He's having a beer maybe at the Last Chance Saloon.
He doesn't drink.
But no one's buying him a drink. So get on with the job, Rishi.
And he wasn't elected, was he?
No.
He wasn't elected by
but
the Conservative members.
That's a fault of the system. That is the system. You elect the Conservatives and they choose their leader, and it's up to them who they choose.
But if I wasn't elected, I'd make myself visible.
Well, couldn't agree more.
We're going to be talking
quite agree.
a lot